Smell those eggs and bacon. It's time for Breakfast Talk, a podcast covering a range of entrepreneurial and independent comics creation topics first thing in the morning. Of course, please like and share if you're enjoying our special seasoning. And be sure to subscribe to join us every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Let's talk.
No, but yeah, me and my buddy, when we moved to Texas, so I'm moving to Texas, and then I was like, if I'm moving to Texas, I want my best friend to move to Texas, because we've always, like, since we were kids, we were like, yo, when we're adults, we're gonna like be neighbors, and we're like gonna live like near each other, and we're gonna be, you know, a team of serial killers that go around Texas and kill people. No, so we just always had this plan, like, you know, as we were growing up. So now it's kind of like aligning. Like he's talking to a recruiter in Texas for his job. Like he might be able to transfer over to another business there. And
what do you do?
He's an ink tech like specialist, like a color matcher and like a supervisor for like when they print on like any type of product, like this is a great example actually right here. So like this box, he basically color matches like the file, like whatever the designer has, he color matches it for the actual print. And then
he basically makes it so that what you see on your screen will in fact be what you want on the box.
Exactly. And then he works in the actual plant, so he supervises all the other people who are actually making the things, so making sure everything's, you know, right on. So that's what he does. So he's like Sun Chemicals. That's like a company he doesn't work for Sun, but it's like a chemical company that's more known that you might know. You know what I mean? DuPont, I think, has a
I know DuPont. Yeah, I think I got a pair of their glasses somewhere.
But yeah, so he might move over there, and you know, we might be able to actually make this dream happen. So if we do that, he's a musician as well, so he wants to have like a space. His wife does like crafts and stuff like that. You send his custom crafts. I plugged her a couple of times, but so we might have like a little podcast space and stuff, exactly what they've been doing and stuff. So like I love that idea of the collective space where you can just like have like a podcast or have like creative enterprises going on and stuff. And I'm excited to have my own space as well. And I'm sure you guys want your own office and all that. But it's weird because Dillon's going to be in California now. Like, is that's your goal, right?
I don't know if he's moving there now.
Eventually, I would like a place out there, but for now, Nashville is quite a comfy place.
Oh, good. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll ever happen with us. Well, we'll probably have a physical building at some point, because that's like a thing that we've talked about. But like a studio space, like I was thinking of that, like, for the last like 2 years, I was always thinking like just driving by like an empty building, and I'm like, if I like leased that out and was able to just have a studio there, that'd be pretty cool.
For like the last 2 years,
I wouldn't have to deal with a cat jumping on a TV and like yelling at it on mic, and then like string up, and then so that'd be pretty cool. And then I could have all the comic book stuff there, so I don't have to have my living room just this.
Yeah, no,
that's another thing I want. Like, I want a house, so like I want an off space, so I don't have to be in the living room. The living room is like my office right now.
Dude, I literally work like a full time from my dining room. Yeah. So just imagine, like, I don't know, right now you could probably hear the TVs going on. Like in the distance.
I have 3 more of these. This is gone now. So
I have.
I shouldn't have.
Okay, I know what that is. All right.
I have another one of these, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to drink it, because it's like a 40 ounce.
Yeah, just tape your hands to the bottle.
Yeah. It's what is it?
Edward 40
hands. Edward 40 hands.
I still remember we had at a RPI, the college I went to, in our fraternity, we had a foreign exchange student, which we found out later we weren't supposed to do, but he joined our fraternity, and he did Edward 40 hands, and I had never seen someone drink a bottle of beer faster in my life. I also have never seen them return it any faster. But basically, this crazy motherfucker took the bottle, put it up, and cycloned it and funneled it in like 13 seconds flat. Like nuts. So he gets it up, gets it going, and then gets
That's just like, to me, that's just like, how do you even swallow that and feel okay with yourself? Like, oh god.
I think he would have been fine if it was flat. I bet he would have been fine. but basically
Carbonation,
it was
yeah.
just foam like after. Because here's the thing: is he finished that one and then he went to because the record in our house was I think 2 minutes and 45 seconds for 2 bottles, which is pretty intense.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
For a single bottle, right? So he's trying to beat that record because he's German and he's like, I can do it. So he gets.
He's been drinking since he was 14.
His dad owns a brewery, like I was like, okay, like that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
so his dad owns a brewery and he actually had these cool bottles he sent us where the necks, like picture like the normal neck goes like this, but instead it went like this. So like the like it curved, and then instead of like a normal cap, it had a cap with like a thin wire and a ring, so you pull the ring and pop it.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. But he finishes that in 13 seconds. He goes to start the next one, and you just see him go in like foam, like he looked like he was having a seizure, and then just like somebody kicked him over a garbage can, and then it's just like it was like it was just spray. It was just like foam.
It was The Exorcist, basically.
Yeah. It was pretty epic. Because like that's not even something. I don't even think you would feel sick after that. It's more just like it would just be like spraying foam out of your mouth. Like
it's intense.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's kind of like drinking a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke and down in some Mentos.
So back in my dark days, let's just put it that way, in high school, we had this thing. We had this weird tradition. And again, I was in high school, so this just obviously was not even of legal age to be drinking at all. But we had a tradition, and it was like junior year, senior year, where every Monday we would go, or every other Monday, whenever we could make it, we would go to my friend Martin's house, and then we would just drink 40s. Like that was the thing. Like everybody would buy some 40s, and we would drink 40s until we were excessively drunk, and then we would all walk home at like 6:00 p.m. You know what I mean? So like we would be going home like on a normal day, like this is a normal ass day on a Monday, and that was like our slogan was like on a Monday, like that was the thing we would always say. And we definitely had moments where there was like new people that would join the fraternity, of people that would come to this crib because basically he
40s.
his parents had a house and then they owned another house that was across the street. So basically we would go to that other house because they had like the basement floor was like not rented out. So we would just go there, and that's where we would drink. So it was like no supervision, nobody there. And we had like new people come in, and like they would always try to like prove themselves, like because everybody drinks. At this point we've had like 17 Mondays under our belt, so we're like we're pros, like we're drinking, and then we want to make them catch up to us, right? Like so we kept like peer pressure them, like drink up faster, bro. You got to keep up. And straight out the nose, out the mouth. So many times people just.
That just reminds me of like John Mulaney's stand up, and he's like just a half dozen white children yelling up the basement stairs, "Fuck the police."
We were not white. It was mostly Hispanics. But despite the complexion, I am Hispanic. I'm Puerto Rican, so I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood. I know I sound like the whitest white guy that you probably ever met, besides Dillon.
Just say you took voice acting lessons. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Me and Dillon are going to go over to Connor's. Me and Dillon are going to go to Connor's house and get some pancakes with Tanner.
And Blake.
Balake. Aaron. Where is Aaron? Is Aaron still here, or is Aaron?
He's not watching anymore.
He's not watching.
Yeah, our stories are not entertaining. Come on, we like our average viewership is like 7 people. Like
the third episode was what was that? Oh, our blueprints for like a workflow system, and that was.
It's funny because back then we weren't even like solid on that yet. Now we have a pretty good one. I think Hector's was like we adjusted it after that one because of some of the stuff you said, and then now our workflow is like a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, and dude, this is perfect because remember on the panel I asked a question like in the comments, and I was like, yeah, do you guys encourage storyboarding? And like the entire like panel was just like, I am too, just doing some design crap. We need you to be active, Aaron. Jesus Christ, we need you, bro.
You don't need to work.
So the whole panel was basically like, I don't do storyboarding. And like, look at my name right there, my display name. Storyboard Shaman. I will prove to you right now in this one conversation why it's important. And the reason why it's important is because it solves a lot of indie problems. And what I mean by that is that when you get a new artist and you guys are just working together for the first time, yes, it's great to give your artist free roam and to say, here's my dialogue, here's my panels, even if they're super organized and descriptive, to have a storyboard in between that stage, because what happens is their interpretation of what you're writing is going to be based on their interpretation of their life, and it's not going to be something that you might connect with. So having a storyboard closes the gap between those two things, and the artist has an easier time of understanding what you want to see. So that's why I say storyboards are extremely important. And another step to that is because a lot of times when indies create a book, it seems very disconnected and disjointed. Like some of the things are not making sense. Some of the panels are not flowing together very well from one scene to the next. And it was something that I think you guys struggled with that first Seer Chronicles issue, where there was some disjointed parts where the scenes just kind of like went from one scene to the next. You didn't have any like transition. So Storyboards fixes that problem too, because now you can say, well, we want more of a background here, or we want more of like, make sure it's a slow transition from this scene to the next, to make sure your page flips are really good, because sometimes artists, they get into the gear of just making panel by panel, and they're not thinking about the page flips, so they're not thinking about what surprise can I add to this next, if this is page 4 or this is page 3, I'm sorry, and we're flipping to page 4, if it's a complete page flip, I want to have a nice like surprise right at that page 4 mark or something like that.
And I'd say that's the thing too, is like if the artist isn't involved in like the writing of the story, or like at least in the creation of the story, like they're not gonna know that stuff. So like that's what happened with our second artist. Like it was like a big issue where like they didn't quite understand how it was moving along, which we also realized later we didn't quite understand how it was moving along. But like once we broke it down in a way where we actually were like, this is the scene, now let's write out the panels on the page. All right, now let's draw, have the flips, build suspense.
Yeah, and it's great that you bring that up, because I think part of that trouble that you guys had was because there was a partial language barrier. I think that he understood English, but he doesn't understand English the way that we understand English, if that makes any sense. So if like you're an indie creator and you're working with somebody that's maybe from Italy, where English is like their second language, it's not their first language, they might not interpret things the same way that you interpret things. So even if you write them how you think makes sense, it might not make sense to them.
I think it's the word. Idioms are the things that are very specific to a language, like what they mean. Like where, like, what is it? A bird in the bush is worth 2 in the hand, or 2, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like,
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, like common sayings and things like that are like
wearing your heart on your sleeves, things like that.
Yeah, nomenclature. But yeah, so storyboarding just kind of closes the gap between what you intend and what the artist interprets. So like that to me is why it's super duper important. And just me in general, like one of the main things that was said about that whole thing was like, it's double work. It is actually, yes, you're 100% right. It's double work. But anything that you do with intensity, with passion, you want to do to the maximum. So if you're going to leave something out of the stage because you're afraid of the workload that's involved, I think you're not doing it to the maximum potential of your passion.
And twice at once.
Exactly. Like you really do have to like go all out. And I'm not going to keep throwing this in the mix, but anytime I go to any professional setting where it's comics involved or anything like that, like I'm provided with at least a very rough, like rudimentary storyboard, because what they want is a very clear translation and execution of their vision and their idea. And that doesn't mean that they're being control freaks. That just means that we have certain points that we really, really want to drive home. So we want to make sure that those things are very clearly like communicated. And I think that, like I said, I'm the storyboard shaman. I'm going to convince all you indies that you need to storyboard. And that doesn't mean like really stupidly complex. What is that?
It's a control freak.
There you go. If you don't, that doesn't mean being super complex. It just means basically outlining the things that you really, really need to see. So if it's something that connects to your universe, really like in a way that's visual, if it's an Easter egg, if it's something that needs to be put into this comic to make it make more sense to the other comics that you're creating in your universe, this is the way to do that. This is the way to really make sure you execute all of those little tiny details that in the end are going to be major to your viewers. It's going to be like, oh, in issue 1 I saw this thing that's now repeated in issue 5, and the reason why it's repeated in issue 5 is because he made sure to include it in issue 1. So,
Exactly.
and those kinds of things, sometimes your writer, like, because you're focused on the dialogue, because you're focused on the story, like how it transitions into the next episode, because you're really focused on the grammar, the editing, sometimes you might miss those details. And if you storyboard, you have the opportunity to give yourself time to really rethink those details. Like, oh yeah, I did want to put in this visual in there, and I remember that now because we're storyboarding.
Visuals.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not trying to, shit on anybody's workflow or the ideas of how their work works best.
Don't cut yourself short. You're absolutely shitting on people's workflow.
No. What I'm saying is everybody has a different way that they go about things, and if it works for you, then it works for you. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of indies that come into the game and they don't necessarily know how to fit all these things together. And what I'm trying to do with storyboarding or reiterating the importance of storyboarding is that there's like this middle path that you can walk where you can interpret what you really, really want to your artist. And that doesn't mean that they're beholden to those things. That doesn't mean that like every single thing that you storyboard like is finalized. That just means that this is a rough concept of what I really, want to see in my vision, and you can execute those things in your execution stage. And from my point of view, the kind of artist I am, I like to be provided more details than less, because I don't want to have to always be thinking about what I need to put in this panel. I want to know what you want in this panel, and then I'll just execute it. Like that saves me so much time in my think. I'm a very cognitive artist. Like as I'm drawing, I'm always thinking, does this make sense? Is this 3-dimensionally proportionate? Like I'm thinking way too much, and it helps me to have some direction from the writer or from whatever creative team that I'm working with to give me some definite things that they need to see, and then I can just focus on those things, and then the little details they can add and I can correct. And the storyboard process is perfect for that.
Also, horses weren't broken, but we made cars. It's okay that even if your system works now, it could be better, it could be faster. So I would say that, yes, if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it, but it doesn't mean you can't fix it and that fixing it won't make it better.
100%.
It's possible that your system's better and it does work better, but you won't know unless you test. Test and iterate. That's like marketing.
No, it's true. And that's kind of primarily like what, like we got Chronicles of Horror done. It got done really well. The process wasn't like horrible. It wasn't like disorganized. It was good, and we got funded. You know what I mean? Like, so I'll go back to this example, because Chronicles of Horror was successful, but it could have been done like in a better process, so that way like everybody's on the same page. And that is what was lacking in this process. And it doesn't mean that process was broken, because like I said, it was successful. It got done, and we did fund. So there wasn't anything necessarily wrong with it. So it just means that we need to adding an extra step just makes it better. That's all. Like that's really all it is. It makes it more clean. It makes it more readable. And that's probably the primary thing that I would point out in a lot of indie properties, and not all, but a lot of indie properties, is that some of them aren't readable. You know what I mean? Like the anatomy is not completely correct. The scene is not completely fleshed out. The perspective is not necessarily like the best, so like little things like that in the storyboarding process, you can fix those things before they get to print. And then your reader can be very much aware of what you want to focal point, what you need to be, expressed. And so yeah, that's my rant on storyboards. And I hope I convinced a couple indie creators of the importance of storyboarding. And if you don't like it, meet me outside. That's all I gotta say. Meet me outside. Let's go.